My name is Auburn Lilly, and this is Inner Orbit. I kind of posted the first episode on a whim. It's a replay of the monthly call in our community space, the Crystalline Coven. And I usually only post those on YouTube, but this month I took a page from the Book of Aries and just decided to full send it. So I wanted to, with this next episode, really kind of get at the heart of what inner orbit is, the work that I do, who I am, and kind of presence my personality and my beliefs on this platform. Because the first episode was the astrology of April, and I suppose it shows obviously my personality, my perspective on things, the way that I commune with astrology, absolutely. But this feels so much more central to my work, so I'm so excited to dig in because this next topic I want to speak on is at the heart of everything that I do, and I feel like it's a great place for us to really start off here in Inner Orbit. So, I want to talk about soul alchemy or the astrology of soul purpose. Chances are, if you're tuning into this podcast here and now, you know you're here for a reason. You can feel it. You know in your heart that your authentic expression is crucial, but you can sense there's something deeper, something more divine to uncover in order to embody your highest potential. I believe your birth chart contains the blueprint written plainly in the stars. Your natal chart is a map of the sky at the exact moment that you took your first breath. With it, we can decode destiny and understand the agreements that brought you into this incarnation. Before we dive in, I want to bring you along the journey that led me to my in depth research on the astrology of soul purpose. It's a decently long walk, but I promise it will be a deep drink of water. By the end of this episode, you'll start to have some of these moving pieces nailed down in your mind and really be able to begin decoding your soul purpose with astrology. So, it all started with a dream. When I was 5 years old, I was living in Solomon's, Maryland, and had already gained a reputation in my family for being somewhat eerily cognizant with psychic sensitivity. My mom likes to tell the story of me looking up at her out of nowhere at 2 years old, stating in a daze that Grace is calling, and then the phone ringing with Grace on the line. I consistently had precognitive dreams and visions that prepared me for major changes in my life, but there's one childhood dream that stands out above the rest. Envision 5-year-old me drifting off to sleep in my bed in my third floor loft bedroom with my dozens of stuffed animals tucked into bed surrounding me. And then a woman that some part of my soul recognized came into my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and asked me to come with her. She assured me that she was no stranger to me. I was suddenly filled with a warmth and a comfort that I couldn't even explain to myself, so I got up, tucked my animals back into bed, and I took her hand. Together, we walked quietly down the flights of stairs and out of my house and into an ancient and mirrored version of my home, except the interior had transformed into a giant winding staircase lined with what were sometimes terrariums, sometimes paintings, and sometimes TV screens, yet always depicting something graphic, disturbing, or difficult in nature. Multiple times I tried to turn back to go home, tearfully, so upset. I mean, honestly, traumatizing. And the woman would console me and urge me to continue. Gently, she held my face in her hands and she said, Auburn, you must. This is all so that you remember the way. And I'm like 5, so I'm like, what? As we made it into what would have been my mirrored closet, the staircase led to a rope ladder and then to boards nailed onto a tree trunk as we continued our frightening and difficult ascent through the clouds and up into the branches of this tree. Once we arrived into the fullest part of the tree branches, it opened up into a room where people were gathered. I felt the woman's voice resonate in my body. It's your responsibility to help others find their way here. Can you do it? And I opened my eyes in my bedroom. There's genuinely not a day that goes by since that fateful night in 1997, the late 1900s, that I don't think of this dream. And every single day, I move from the awareness that awakened within me. It has painted every decision I've made in vivid color. And I set out as an adult on this quest to really understand the soul agreements that we make as we commit to this life on earth. So, fast forward 20 years, and I'm managing a metaphysical shop in downtown Asheville, North Carolina, offering my first professional readings with the Animal Spirit Oracle from the Wild Unknown. That's really how I got started professionally in the witchy realms. And so in the shop, some days the readings trickled in slowly, like raindrops from the trees after a storm. Others, they were nonstop, jam-packed, start to finish all day long. Despite my clientele being completely random, they were just folks coming in for drop-in, walk-in appointments, 9 times out of 10. I did start to notice a pattern. The majority of my readings were about the intersection of soul purpose and magic. Why am I here? What should I be doing with my life? How can I make my dreams come true? How do I fulfill the longing in my soul? As I dove into these inquiries with clients professionally, I began taking my astrological studies more seriously. I started deepening my relationship with the stars and planets, studying the daily transits, and drawing these webs of connection in my journal every day, still trying to decode this mystery of why we're here and how we can live into our highest timeline in such a dense reality. Enter Virginia Rosenberg, my astrological mentor. Every Sunday, Virginia and I were at the shop, she offering astrology readings and I tending the store. One day, I confided in her that astrology really excited me, and yet I was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of what you must know to be able to speak about it eloquently and understand it in an embodied way. What she said to me next changed my life completely. She told me that astrology is a self-secret language that reveals itself to you over time. Not to force it, not to worry about it, but to really be with what's present for me to learn and to embody. Then she read my chart, and I understood viscerally how clearly the soul's imprint can be seen in a birth chart. I'd been learning in bits and pieces and learning to flow with the planets on a daily basis, but actually being able to synthesize what's written in a birth chart felt like alchemy, like high magic. Cue what I'm sure will be a lifelong hyperfixation, intuitive astrology. As the years went by, Virginia and I wove closer. She brought me on to manage her blog and mailing list, supporting her renowned bi monthly moon posts. This budding mentorship evolved into an invitation to administrate her intuitive astrology certification program, Sky Scholar. Fast forward to one of the first lectures in Sky Scholar, during which Virginia orients us to the chart using tree imagery. Chills ran down my spine. She shows us the way that together the ascendant or the rising and the descendant, the point on the chart opposite of the rising, mark the horizon of the earth at the time of our birth. That the Imam Cheli is our root system and the medium Cheli is the apex of our branches. Suddenly, astrology fit into this nearly lifelong dream woven metaphor of climbing the tree of life. In astrology, the midheaven, the medium Shelley, represents our public life, the role we play in society, our career, and public influence, our legacy. In combination with the other axes of the chart, the stage is set for how we're orienting to our purpose in this lifetime. In Placidus, the angles of our chart are major anchor points, initiating the beginning of the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses. In other words, they have significant impact on the way that we relate to and move through the world, and on our unique point of view, the filter through which we engage with the world around us. So, where do we find the blueprint of soul purpose in our chart? The midheaven is, I think, the classic place to start, but I could sense that there was something deeper to uncover, So I began to work intuitively with birth charts, allowing them to speak to me in their own way and notice which placements in the chart were most vocal around soul purpose. Over time, I felt the rumblings of my theory taking form. I danced with it. I shared the understanding I was forming in hundreds of one on one sessions. And when Virginia revealed that Sky Scholar 3 would include a research project, I knew I wanted to take part, even though technically I was a staff member. Nerd alert. As I began my research, which now considers 50 plus case studies, I knew that I wanted to answer three major questions. What is our soul purpose? Why did we make this agreement? And how do we fulfill it? My approach with my line of questioning was deeply influenced by a world altering experience I had in 2014. On the evening of my 22nd birthday, I received a vision of myself in a higher plane, choosing my parents and zooming through the stars to become incarnate, to be here now. Oftentimes in my life, in the wake of that childhood dream, I felt a tremendous weight of responsibility that I felt at the time had been cast upon me. And when I started to work with the knowing that I actually chose to be here, then it became not just enough to know what we're here to do. I wanted to know why we would agree to come here and do it. And potentially, even more importantly, how on earth we bring this purpose into existence, fulfilling our soul contract, if you will, within this lifetime. So, first, let's explore the North Node as the what. What is our soul purpose? The lunar nodes create another vital axis in our chart. Although the nodes are not tangible objects out in the solar system, they have tremendous influence on our direction and evolution. As we know, the moon orbits the earth and the earth orbits the sun. If we trace the sun's apparent path through our sky, we find what's called the ecliptic. There are 2 points where the moon's orbit intersects with the sun's ecliptic. These are the lunar nodes. So the north node is the point where the moon rises above the sun's ecliptic, and the south node is the point where the moon sinks below the sun's ecliptic. The vision I received around the role of the lunar node depicts us as the archer, with our bow drawn and the arrow nocked. The south node is where we've drawn back the bowstring. So in this zone, we're in the realm of our natural gifts, and yet it's also a place where we must release if we are to let this arrow fly. The north node is not the tip of the arrow, but what we're aiming for, striving for, yearning for. It's something that we have to take a leap of faith to achieve. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt what we have come here to live into. I believe that we come here for both selfless and self-full reasons. That the North Node illuminates the selfless piece, what we came here to do for others, for the world, for collective consciousness itself, what our legacy, our lasting impression truly is. When we consider the sign that rules our North Node, the house that it falls within, and the way that it engages with other planets in our chart, we can start to get a clear picture of what it is you're here to do. The beauty of it is that it's something innate. You don't have to twist and stretch and contort your way into activating this purpose. You're actually probably already living into it right now. There is, however, a distinct magic in recognizing, claiming, and devoting yourself to it that elevates your soul journey out of the mundane and into the mystical. Now, let's turn to Chiron to answer why. Why did we make this agreement? So, envision again, if you will, that on some plane of existence, you, embodied as your highest self, were called upon and asked to sign a soul contract. That you must come here to Earth and live into your North Node destiny. That you were shown in vivid detail the trials and tribulations ahead of you. That you understood the density of life on Earth and that you gleefully and willingly signed the contract anyway. If you're anything like me, you're wondering, why on earth would I do that? I believe Chiron holds the key. Chiron is known to the astro world as the wounded healer, this tremendously difficult thing we've come here to heal. I've heard it called the unhealable wound. I see the way Chiron reflects a potentially lifetimes old wound. The way that when we're healing a wound, like a scabby scratch or a deep purplish bruise, we can't help but press around it every once in a while to see if it's still sensitive, to check if its healing has progressed. Maybe sometimes we apply a healing balm. Maybe sometimes we ignore it for a while, but we're reminded it's there when someone grazes it accidentally. Sometimes our Chiron can hold us back, anchoring into unhealed fear rather than embodied and purposeful expression. When we work with our natal Chiron, we find that the medicine of the placement is its own antidote for the pain. This frees us to continue our journey into the energy of our North Node, what we've set out to do here on Earth. From a soul purpose perspective, I believe Chiron represents what we believe we need to heal to progress on our journey, what we need to have healing experience around in order to embody our highest potential. We came here to offer something to consciousness at large, and we see that in the North Node. We also came here to heal something in ourselves, and we see that in Chiron. Finally, let's look to Pluto to answer how. How do we fulfill this soul purpose? When it came to understanding how we are meant to accomplish, alchemize, and fulfill our soul purpose, going into this research, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to be led. Before the case studies, I had a clear understanding that the North Node and Chiron were major players. I had an intuitive understanding of how to guide folks in activating their soul purpose. However, I wasn't sure where I was looking to glean the information I was seeking. I was simply receiving it. Was it from Saturn, Lord of structure and responsibility? From Uranus, the revolutionary humanitarian? From Mars, the ruler of our will and determination? The truth came clear in my case studies. We looked to Pluto, god of transformation and rebirth. I honestly owe this finding entirely to the lovely human beings who took part in my case studies. More than half of my case study clients had Pluto on one of their chart angles. Actually, 57.1% of these clients had Pluto either on their rising, their Imam Cheli, their descendant, or the midheaven. It felt like the planet of transformation was screaming at me through the screen. So when I followed that thread, what I found was that Pluto is very clearly showing us what we must transmute, what we must transform, what we must alchemize during this lifetime in order to bring our purpose to fruition. It's only afterward, in discussion with my colleagues, that I learned that Pluto is also a centerpiece of evolutionary astrology, a branch of study that I'm not fluent in, yet I'd be remiss not to mention it here. Pluto reveals the medicinal brew your soul has to offer the world and how it wants to come forward. Often called the golden healer, Pluto lights the path of our purpose with a warm glow, generated and made brighter by commitment to self transformation. When we lean into Pluto's realm and truly face what he brings forth for us to alchemize, we land naturally within the resonance of what we came here to do. So, this was a lot. I know. If you're not super astro fluent, I know that throwing around some of these terminologies can be a little overwhelming. But I wanted to lead with this episode because it's just so central to everything that I needed to plant this seed early in this podcast journey that we're on all together. So if you're listening to this and you're like, what the fuck is this girl talking about? I promise there will be episodes that are a little bit less stilted in terminology. But if you're listening to this and you're a little enchanted by it, or you're totally going bar for bar with me here and it's resonating so deeply, or you have your own theories about it, you've been doing research about this as well, I'd love to hear from all of you. Um, and I encourage you to dig deeper no matter where you're at in this journey. There's wisdom to be found here for you. And one of the ways that I've tried to make this information a little more accessible is I've created a whole suite of soul alchemy offerings, really designed to support you on this path of self-transformation and fulfillment of your co-created destiny. To get started, you can download a free preview of the Soul Alchemy Starter Guide. It contains a walkthrough of orienting to the chart and your north node. It also contains a vault of some astro wisdom for you to pull from, so you don't have to be an expert to use this guide. It's actually applicable for all levels. But inside that guide, you'll find information and links to purchase the full guide. And I'm going to throw it on sale for podcast listeners for just $8. It's regularly $22, and all the details as well to book a one-on-one session or package. And there just may be a cutie little discount code in there for sessions as well. So if you're listening to this, thank you. I love you. I'm so glad we're alive at the same time on planet Earth. It is a pleasure to be connected. I can't wait to get back on the mic for episode 3 and to start announcing some of our guest features as well. If you're looking to be a guest on a podcast in this realm of spirituality, witchcraft, astrology, manifestation, etc., etc., please find the guest application in the show notes. And I'm throwing that link for the free preview of the Soul Alchemy Starter Guide in the show notes as well. Until next time, blessed be.